Welcome to 100 Yards Football. This morning we got a college and NFL football legend, Ricky Watters, running back, Notre Dame University, by way of the San Francisco 49ers and the Philadelphia Eagles. So if you like the video today, please come and share it. I'm your host, Mr. Football, Vincent Turner. And before we get started, and before I bring my guest up, today's video is presented by betonline.com, affiliated with Believe the Podcast Network. Now to my guest. He's been away for us for about, a month and a half, but he's still part of the team. As you look at him right now, he looks good today, like a model, like a movie star. He's coming to us live this morning out of Hollywood, California, which is known as Los Angeles. And you know LA has been on fire because of Super Bowl 56. But he's very talented. And he's going to be our NFL draft specialist as we get ready for the draft. And he's going to be doing these great legend videos with me for the next few months. So I'm glad, I'm honored, and I'm so proud to have him back this morning on 100 Yards Football. Mr. Jaimes Timas coming to us live out of Hollywood, California, the city of Compton, South Central. How you doing this morning, sir?
I'm doing great. First of all, I want to thank you, Mr. Football, Vincent Turner, for everything, for always being there and supportive. And it's been a little rough month and a half with my family with the passing of my father. And I just want to thank you for your encouragement, your words. And it's so exciting to be back on 100 yards of football.
Well,
let's go.
The thing about it, I didn't want to mention that about your father's passing, but I tell you what, is that I'm very honored and very proud that you're back with me this morning. I've learned a lot from you. I learned a lot about your strength, and you're an inspiration in my life right now. And thank you so much for coming back, because I know it's been a real tough time for you. But what we're going to do, we're going to put this down on Ricky Watters today. And hopefully your father that's looking down will be awfully proud. And I know he is, so you're doing a great job with Ricky Watters today. So tell us about Ricky Watters.
Thank you. Well, first of all, it's Ricky running, Watters run. One of the most electrifying and exciting running backs in the 90s. Born in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, the parents to Jim and Marie Watters. Went to the University of Notre Dame, and keep in mind that team was fully loaded with players. For him to stand out, he did his best, but his best and what he did on the field in his career, he rushed for 1,800 yards. And what really stood out was his 600 yards receiving for a running back, which was phenomenal. And that made him even work harder. Scouts and teams were looking at him. And in the 1991 draft, the San Francisco 49ers were looking for a player to replace the great Roger Craig. And to replace the great Roger Craig, I mean, that says a mouthful. Roger Craig signed with the Raiders. And what perfect fit for a West Coast offense, which I don't want to say finesse offense, but a lot of players and coaches hate that. It's more of a beat him to the punch type of offense. And Ricky Watters fit in well there. But he was injured in 1991, so he didn't really play that year. But in 1992, when that season came around, Houston, ready for takeoff. He shined in 1992. He produced over 1,400 total yards, 11 TDs, a Pro Bowler 3 years in San Francisco. And due to the salary cap in San Francisco, which they had to let players go because they didn't want to go over the cap, he was let go and he signed with the Philadelphia Eagles, which he spent 3 seasons. He also produced there 3,600 rushing yards, over 5,000 total yards, and 25 touchdowns. And he was kind of a short stint in Philadelphia, so he had to go to the Seattle Seahawks, in which some say his arrogant and brash vocal talks kind of left a bad taste in his teammates. But that earned the respect of everyone in that club, in that room. And on the field, what he did on the field. And there he rushed for 3,600 rushing yards, over 5,000 yards total, and 25 TDs. But in the emergence of Sean Alexandra, his season was kind of short-lived, and he turned a back seat, and he left and retired at the NFL after 10 seasons. And you look at the seasons, his productivity, and over 10,000 yards rushing. And what really got me was the 4,228 yards receiving, which is a 9.1 receiving yards per catch. Every time as a kid watching Ricky Watters, I was excited. He made football fun to watch. He kept his legs moving every time, not even being denied. He had a funky style of running, but it stood out for him. And some say to be a future Hall of Famer, you got to look at, of course, like when I think of I know two ends of the spectrum, but Muhammad Ali, very vocal. Yeah, he produced when he was in the boxing ring. That was the same. I feel like Ricky Watters carried that into the game. This passion, his style, his swag. He had passion for the game. And watching game film and seeing him run, I felt like he made himself skinny, and he made it through the hole. He knew when to burst outside, but his vocal and his passion for the game made him very exciting. You got to look at the productivity of what he did in the game. I believe he's a future Hall of Famer. Besides the saying that happened in Philadelphia, for who? For what? I mean, it doesn't really help my case, but just looking at what he did on the football field, his love and passion for the game, I believe Ricky Watters is a future Hall of Famer. You got to love him. And in meeting his kids and Ricky, Sean, and his wife, Katrina, like they're just an amazing, loving people. He just loves people, very humble, a great guy. And I'm very excited to meet Ricky. We even talked to him for the few days that I did. So, being on the lookout, I believe Ricky Watters is a future Hall of Famer.
When I think about Ricky Watters, as you just mentioned, I think about the brass, the cockiness. And he was part of that Notre Dame. Let's talk about when he went to Notre Dame. Part of the Lou Holtz changing of the guard in the culture of Notre Dame. Bringing in that player that had that cockiness, that had that swagger, that had that thump, as we call him, down here in the South. And you look at Ricky Watters' skill set as a running back. Initial quickness, A+. The run instincts, A+. Being able to look between the hole, the vision. Inside runner, he was powerful. Outside runner, A+. The balance, A+. But what separates Ricky Watters than from some of the running backs that are in the Hall of Fame was his hands.
Mm-hmm.
A+. The ability to run pass routes. The ability for him to go to Notre Dame as a receiver first, and then he moved into tailback, then back to receiver. Then he went to Notre Dame, and as I said, Lou Holtz was changing the culture. And we know about Notre Dame. Every sport needs kings. Notre Dame is excellent. It's a standard that's not mentioned by any college football program in America. They hate it. They feared. They respected, and that was Ricky Watters. Same as in basketball with the Celtics and Lakers. Same in football with New England. And then I remember Ricky Watters when he was with the 49ers. I'm not going to mention when he was with the Eagles. But them great battles in the mid-90s, the Cowboys and the 49ers. Come on, man.
And the Giants. I mean, come on, that game where they scored 5 touchdowns.
You're totally correct. But it was the Cowboys, though. Them battles.
Oh,
Michael Irvin, Emmett, Nate Newton, Haley, the 49ers, and especially that year when the 49ers won the Super Bowl and took the monkey off their back with Steve Young, Dion, Brian Young, Ricky Jackson, Tim McDonald. But Ricky Watters scoring 3 touchdowns in that Super Bowl against the San Diego Chargers.
Mm-hmm.
But most of all, when he got to that situation, it started in Notre Dame. And see, Notre Dame, like I say, is football Jesus. But I'm going to say this about Notre Dame. They had a thing in the 20s. They had a backfield called the Four Horsemen.
Mm-hmm.
Don Miller, Jim Crowley, Elmer Layton, Harry Shuttle. Well, I'm included today the Five Horsemen because I'm include Ricky Waters in that class. And then most of all, when I'm proud of Ricky Waters, and you brought this to my attention, Jaimes, was I really didn't know he had over 10,000 yards rushing
Yep.
and another 4,400 in receiving and 91 touchdowns. That's Hall of Fame quality. He should have been in the Hall of Fame right now.
Yes.
But I always talk about where's your bloodlines? Where's your roots? You mentioned earlier, Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. And it's been some stars. Marcus Colston.
Mm-hmm.
The great late Dennis Green. Jimmy Jones, starting quarterback at USC in 1969 through 1971. LaShawn McCoy. We know he was a good football player. I don't have to say no more. Jan White, Ohio State, 1968 Super Sophomores. And finally, who's going to keep that Harrisburg community going?
Who do you have?
Michael Parsons, the Dallas Cowboys, Rookie of the Year.
Yep.
Ricky Waters comes from that bloodline. And is proud to do him today.
Yeah.
One of the most underappreciated and should be in the Hall of Fame football players. Final words about Ricky Waters, Mr. Jaimes Timas.
It's so fascinating, exciting, not just as a player, but also as a man, a great guy. I believe he's a future Hall of Famer. It's the reason why I became a running back. I just love him, and I think it's great. And I just sign him up, Hall of Fame.
My final words about Ricky Waters before I get to that, please follow us on today's video is presented by betonline.com, affiliate of Bleed Podcast Network. Special thanks to our producer, Mr. Logan Landers.
Thank you, Logan.
And when I think about Ricky Waters, I'm sorry. 1982. A group out of New York where the great guitarist Nile Rodgers, Chic, had a song, We Are the Rebels. Rebels are we. We want to be free. My baby and me. Ricky Waters was a rebel, brother.
Yeah, he was.
Thank you for watching our video on Ricky Waters. So if you like the video, please come in and share it. I'm Vincent Turner, Mr. Football, and thank you to Mr. Jaimes Timas, coming live out of Hollywood, California. Thank you, and God bless.
God bless. Thank